Rain poured like judgment over the crowded city square, streaking down glass buildings and pooling in the cracks of broken concrete. Spotlights lit up a gleaming stage draped in velvet, where powerful people sipped champagne and clinked glasses under a banner that read, "Hope for Humanity Gala, Feeding Tomorrow." It was the kind of event where the wealthy gathered to pretend they cared. Mira Sanders stood at the edge of the catering tent, her apron soaked and curls clinging to her cheeks. She'd been baking since 4 a.m., kneading hope into bread rolls and boxing them with trembling hands. She wasn't on the guest list. She was here to work, to be invisible. And yet, she was the only one who noticed the man. He stumbled through the crowd like a ghost, a tangled beard, soaked coat, bloodshot eyes scanning the tables stacked with untouched food. Some guests recoiled. Others whispered, smirking behind wine glasses. "Security," one woman snapped. "There's a vagrant at the donation display." The guards moved fast, surrounding the man like vultures. He tried to retreat, but tripped, knocking over the table. Boxes of canned goods and fresh bread spilled across the marble floor. Gasps. Laughter. Camera flashes. Mira dropped the tray in her hands. "Wait," she shouted, darting forward. "Don't touch him." The guards hesitated, taken aback by her sudden charge. She knelt beside the man, his shoulders shivering under soaked fabric, his eyes vacant. There was a faint bruise on his jaw, and his knuckles were raw. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly, touching his shoulder. "It's okay. You're safe now." I was just hungry," he whispered, his voice frayed like torn cloth. "Didn't mean to cause trouble." The head of the gala committee, a sharp-faced woman in pearls, stepped forward. "Who do you think you are?" she snapped at Mira. "He's trespassing." "And you're, what, staff? This is not your place." Mira stood up slowly, fire in her eyes. "He's a human being. And this entire event is about feeding the hungry. Or is that only true when it makes headlines?" A hush fell. Her boss, Mr. Callahan, stormed out of the tent. "Mira, what the hell are you doing? This is not your business. You're done. Pack your things." Mira froze. "You're firing me?" Callahan sneered. "You embarrass the sponsors. I've got a business to run." The homeless man looked up at her then, eyes clearing, if only for a second. His voice was almost reverent. "Why did you help me?" Mira swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "Because someone had to." She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out the last piece of focaccia she'd baked that morning. Still warm, still soft. She placed it in his hands gently, like a gift. Then she turned and walked into the rain, heart pounding, jobless, humiliated, but strangely, not broken. Damien Voss stood on the rooftop balcony of the neighboring tower, hidden behind tinted glass. His assistant's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Sir, we should leave. Your board's already upset you've been off-grid this long." He said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the girl, Mira, disappearing into the wet streets. He'd come to the gala under disguise, testing his board's loyalty, testing humanity's compassion. What he saw instead was a stage show built on lies. Except her. She hadn't known who he was. She hadn't cared. She had stared down power, wealth, judgment, for someone who had nothing. And in doing so, she'd woken something in him he thought was dead. Damien reached into his coat, pulled out the crust of bread she'd given him, and held it tight in his hand. He wouldn't forget her. Not the fire in her voice. Not the pain in her eyes. And not the fact that, for the first time in 10 years, someone had saved him. The storm hadn't stopped. Water dripped from the edge of Myra's thin coat as she sat on the back steps of the closed bakery, clutching her phone like it was her last lifeline. No missed calls. No texts. Just a screen smeared with raindrops and the reflection of her own eyes. Wide, hollow, humiliated. "I stood up for a stranger and lost my job," she whispered bitterly. "How's that for justice?" The cold bit into her hands, but the memory of his hands, trembling, bruised, yet careful when he took her bread, lingered with warmth. He hadn't looked dangerous. Just lost. like someone who'd fallen through the cracks and no one noticed. Except her. Mira sighed and stood, her legs numb. She couldn't sit here all night. She had one umbrella, $5 in tips, and no backup plan. Then, as she turned to walk away, wait. A voice. Deep, raw, and close. She spun. There he was again. The homeless man. Only now something had changed. His hair was combed, though damp from the rain. The bruises still marred his jaw, but he no longer looked invisible. He looked real. Alert.
Alive.
I didn't know where else to go, he said quietly. You fed me. No one's done that in a long time. Mira blinked, stunned. You followed me? He nodded. I watched you get fired. I couldn't leave it like that. You shouldn't have come, she murmured, glancing around. This part of town's not safe after midnight. And I'm not. I don't have anything to offer you. He took a step forward, voice low but firm. You gave me dignity. That's not nothing. The wind whipped her hair across her face. Her hands shook, partly from cold, partly from the storm inside her. You don't even know me. You're Mira, he said without hesitation. You make your own bread. You hate hypocrisy. You speak when you're not supposed to. That caught her breath. She searched his face. Something in the way he stood, straight back despite the rain, didn't match the shivering figure from earlier. Who are you? She asked. His lips twitched in the barest flicker of a smile. Someone who used to believe money could fix everything. Until it couldn't. She wanted to ask more. But then, a shout rang out from the alley behind them. Hey, you two. Hands in the air. Two men emerged from the shadows, one with a crowbar, the other with a knife glinting under the streetlight. Mira froze. The air turned razor-sharp. We saw you handing out cash earlier, old man. One snarled at Damien. Time to share the wealth. Mira stepped forward instinctively, blocking Damien with her body. Leave us alone. We don't want trouble. The man with the knife sneered. Oh, sweetheart. Trouble wants you. Damien grabbed Myra's hand and yanked her behind him, his body coiled like a wire. Run, he said.
No.
Mira. I said no, she shouted. I'm not leaving someone behind again. The thugs advanced. In a blur, Damien moved. He ducked under the swing of the crowbar, twisted the man's arm back, and sent him crashing into the dumpster. Mira gasped. He was fast, trained. The second man lunged with the knife. But Damien was faster. He stepped in, disarmed him with a sharp twist, and kicked the blade away. Then he looked down at the man, eyes cold, unreadable. Walk away, he said.
Now.
They fled without another word. The alley fell silent again. Mira stared at him, heart racing. You knew how to fight. He exhaled slowly. I wasn't always living on the street. And you're not just some lost soul, are you? He looked at her, really looked.
No.
The truth lingered between them like fog. She didn't press.
Not yet.
Instead, she stepped forward, laid her palm gently over the bruises on his jaw, and whispered, You should come inside. There's a kettle upstairs. It's not much, but you're soaked. His eyes flickered with something, pain, relief, something heavier. You're not afraid of me? I should be, she said honestly. But I'm more afraid of not helping someone who needs it. And with that, she opened the back door and let him in. The bell above the glass doors chimed with sharp finality. Mira stepped into the gleaming lobby of Voss Enterprises, clutching her worn resume with both hands. She didn't want to be here. But bills didn't care about pride, and neither did the city's landlords. She glanced around. The place reeked of power. High ceilings. Black marble floors. Suits that cost more than her rent. And her, in second-hand heels, and a blazer a size too big. She swallowed hard and approached the front desk.
Hi.
I'm here for the temp position. Assistant intake. The receptionist, a blonde with sharp cheekbones and sharper eyes, barely glanced up. Name? Mira Sanders. A pause. Then a faint smirk. You're the one who fed that beggar at the gala, right? Myra's stomach dropped. So the video had made the rounds. I was just human, I know. the woman said, sarcasm dripping from her tone. Go to the 27th floor. You'll be assisting the executive team until someone real is hired. Mira forced a smile, walked toward the elevator, and jabbed the button with trembling fingers. As the steel doors closed around her, a thought crept in. What if he was here? She hadn't seen him since that night. The man she let into her tiny flat, fed soup to, offered dry clothes. He hadn't said a word the next morning, just left a thank you note and disappeared. She never even got his name. But something about him had haunted her. The elevator doors slid open. Mira stepped out into a world of glass and silence. The executive floor was hushed, clinical, suffocating with wealth. She was barely shown to her desk before a young woman in a designer pencil skirt barked, "You, new girl, take this file to Mr. Voss." Mira blinked. "Mr. Voss?" The woman rolled her eyes. "Top floor. Private office. Don't dawdle. He hates inefficiency." She took the folder with shaking hands, heart pounding in her chest. Voss Enterprises. Voss. Voss. Why did that name suddenly feel so important? The private elevator at the end of the hall required a special card. The assistant shoved it into her hand.
Go.
Now. The top floor opened into something out of a dream or a nightmare. A massive office with panoramic city views, all sharp edges and dark woods. He stood by the window, his back to her. Black suit. Crisp shoulders. One hand tucked in his pocket, the other holding a glass of something amber. "Sir?" Her voice cracked slightly. He didn't turn. Her eyes darted around the room. No signs of personal items. Just power. Cold, heavy power. "I was told to bring this." "I know." He finally turned, and Mira froze. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Her breath caught. Her knees weakened. It was him. Clean cut.
Groomed.
A silk tie instead of rags. But the eyes, those haunted, storm-dark eyes. They were the same. "Why you?" she whispered. Damien Voss, billionaire CEO, Forbes-listed recluse, the man who owned half the skyline, looked at her and spoke gently. "I didn't want you to find out like this." The silence pressed in like a scream. "You lied to me," she said, backing away. "You let me believe you were." "I didn't lie. I was that man." His voice was low, controlled, but laced with emotion. "I had lost everything. Betrayed by people I trusted. I walked away from my empire and wanted to see if anything true still existed in this world." She shook her head, barely breathing. "So, I was your experiment?" "No," he stepped forward. "You were my proof. That kindness still existed. That someone could see me as a person, not a brand." Myra's voice trembled. "And what? You just watched me fall? Get fired? Lose everything for helping you?" He winced. "I didn't know they'd fire you. By the time I got back." She raised a hand. "Don't. Just don't." The air between them cracked, thick with betrayal. "You have everything," she whispered. "And you still needed to hide just to see if people could be kind. That's not broken. That's cruel." He looked down, jaw tight. "I wanted to come back, but I didn't know how." "And now what?" she asked, bitterness rising. "You brought me here to what? Thank me with a job? A promotion? A payout?" His eyes lifted. "I brought you here because I couldn't forget you." Silence.
Raw.
Open. Myra's breath hitched, heart pounding. She didn't want this to be real. But the way he looked at her, not as a savior, not as a CEO, but as a man stripped of his mask, it nearly shattered her resolve. Nearly. She straightened her back. "You should have stayed gone." And with that, she walked out, heels clicking over the broken glass, and left him standing in the ruins of the lie he once needed to survive. End of chap. Mira didn't sleep that night. She tried. She tossed between her thin sheets in her cold apartment, the scent of burned coffee and unpaid electricity bills curling through the room. But every time she closed her eyes, all she saw were his eyes. Damien Voss. Not the man who'd shivered under a blanket and thanked her for soup with a cracked voice. No, This Damien wore power like a tailored suit, controlled silence like armor. And somehow both men were the same. You should have stayed gone. She whispered the words again, like a mantra. But they didn't bring peace. The next morning, the elevator to the 27th floor was dead silent. Whispers clung to her back like a second skin. That's her, right? The charity girl? I heard Mr. Voss brought her in himself. No one even knew she was hired. Just showed up and… Mira kept her chin high, but her chest burned. She reached her desk, and her stomach dropped. Her drawer was wide open. Files scattered. Her bag dumped out. What the… She bent to gather her things, but a voice interrupted her. I wouldn't bother. She turned sharply. It was Angela, the same sleek assistant who sent her to Damien's office yesterday. Now, the smirk on her face was sharper, colder. Excuse me? Angela crossed her arms. People like you don't last here. You don't belong. Mr. Voss might be distracted by your charity case glow, but the rest of us see through it.
Mira rose slowly.
Did you go through my things? Angela leaned in. You should be careful what you leave lying around. HR doesn't need much to make people disappear. Something about her tone made Myra's pulse spike. She stepped back, swallowing the rising panic. But as she turned toward the corridor, she saw it. On her monitor, her email was open. But not by her. Someone had been reading her drafts. Her resignation letter. Her private notes. A file attachment blinked on the screen. Unauthorized employee data access. Confidential. What is this? Myra's fingers hovered. The second she clicked, the screen glitched, then went black. Her breath caught. Suddenly, heavy footsteps thundered toward her. Mira Sanders? A deep voice. 2 suited security men. You need to come with us.
What?
Why? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Internal breach protocol, one replied. You've been flagged for attempting to access restricted Voss Enterprise files. Myra's heart plummeted. That's not true. I didn't even. Angela's voice cooed behind her. Maybe you clicked something you weren't supposed to. Or maybe you just couldn't resist playing in the big leagues. The guards seized Myra's arm. I need to talk to Mr. Voss, she shouted, twisting in their grip. I demand to speak to him. Mr. Voss is in a board meeting, one said. And you're done. 3 floors up, Damien's meeting was dragging on until his phone buzzed. Security alert. Mira Sanders detained for breach. His entire body went rigid. Call recess, he ordered sharply.
Now.
Sir, we're in the middle of.
Now.
He stormed down the hallway, fury rising like a tidal wave. When the elevator doors opened, he saw her.
Mira.
Eyes blazing, shoulders squared, surrounded by men twice her size. His pulse hammered. What the hell is going on? The guards froze. Angela appeared behind them, feigning concern. Sir, we caught her accessing classified. Stop, he growled. Everyone out.
Now.
But I set out. One look from him, and the hallway emptied. Mira stood trembling, tears held at bay, by sheer will. Is this your idea of a thank you? She spat. Hire me just to humiliate me in front of everyone? Damien stepped closer. I had nothing to do with this. Really? Her voice cracked. Then why were my files open? Why did they come for me? He ran a hand through his hair, fury flashing behind his eyes. Someone's framing you. Mira stiffened. Angela's smug smile. The timing. The email. Your people, she said bitterly, don't like me. And someone's willing to destroy me to get me out of this building. Damien exhaled. Then I'll find them. Why? She demanded, eyes locked on his. Because you owe me. Because I make you feel something you forgot. His throat tightened. No, he said finally. Because when I was nothing, you protected me. Now that I have everything, I won't let them tear you down. Silence. A beat passed. Then Myra's voice dropped, barely above a whisper. Then prove it. The boardroom was packed. Every executive in the Voss empire sat behind long panes of polished glass, their expressions cold, controlled, a pack of wolves in tailored suits. At the head of the table, Damien Voss stood in silence. His jaw was tight, his shoulders locked. His voice, when it came, was like steel beneath velvet. "I've called this emergency session for one reason, to address the attack on an employee under my protection." A murmur rippled across the room. "Sir," one of the older board members, Langford, interjected, "I'm not sure this is the time or place to address clerical misunderstandings." "This Mira Sanders person. You mean the woman who was nearly dragged out of this building in front of cameras?" Damien's voice cut like a blade. "The one who was framed using our internal system and made a scapegoat by someone in this room?" Silence. Langford shifted uncomfortably. "Let's not pretend we don't know what this is," Damien continued. "You saw a girl with no pedigree, no title, suddenly close to me, and you panicked." He tapped the tablet in front of him. Instantly, the screen behind him came to life. Security footage, email logs, metadata trails, and then Angela's name. A collective breath sucked through the room. "Angela," Damien said, turning to the blonde assistant seated stiffly at the far end. "Care to explain why your credentials were used to access Myra's private employee file?" Angela didn't blink. Instead, she rose slowly, adjusting her cufflinks with infuriating calm. "I don't deny it," she said. "I did it." Gasps. Even Langford looked stunned. "I worked for you for 5 years, Damien," Angela continued, voice steady but sharp. "I cleaned up messes, played fixer, ran your world. And you never noticed. Until she walked in, with a charity smile and a tragic story." Damien's face darkened. "You humiliated her." "I protected you," Angela snapped. "From weakness. From distraction. She's a liability. Do you have any idea what the press will say when they find out you were living on the street and fell for the first sob story who offered you bread?" "You mean," Damien said coldly, "the first person who saw me as human?" Angela blinked. Just once. Mira, standing silently by the door, felt every eye flick toward her. She had wanted justice. But not like this. Not a public unmasking. Not this violence of emotion laid bare for strangers. "I don't want your protection," she said, stepping into the room. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "And I didn't ask for this." "Mira," Damien warned softly, but she met his gaze. "I didn't come to this company to play games or steal power," she said, looking directly at the board. "I just wanted to work. To start again. And you," she looked at Angela now, "took that from me because you were afraid I mattered to someone." Angela's lip curled. "You don't belong in this world." "Neither did he," Mira snapped. "But I saw something in him when he had nothing. And it terrifies you that he saw something in me too." Damien stood frozen, jaw clenched, watching her, really watching her, as if seeing her for the first time, not through the lens of guilt or gratitude, but clarity. "You were right," he said suddenly, voice rough. "About everything." Then he turned to the board. "Angela is terminated. Effective immediately." Angela paled, lips parting in shock. "You're ending me for her?" "I'm ending you because you betrayed everything I built." Security approached. Angela stepped back once, then squared her shoulders. "I hope she's worth it." She walked out without looking back. The doors closed behind her like the slam of a gavel. The silence that followed was deafening. Mira stood still, the weight of 100 eyes pressing down. But only one gaze mattered. Damien approached her, slow, measured, stopping just an arm's length away. "I meant to protect you," he said. "But I failed." She didn't speak, just stared at him, aching and unsure. "I was afraid," he confessed. "Afraid that if I told you who I really was, you'd vanish. Or worse, stay out of pity." "I never pitied you," she said quietly. "I saw you." A breath passed between them. Charged. Raw. "I don't want to be saved," Mira whispered. "I want to choose." "And if you choose to walk away?" he asked. Her eyes didn't waver. "Then you'll let me go?" Damien nodded. "Then I'll let you go." A long pause. Then, "I'm not walking," she said. The rooftop was quiet, high above the city's chaos, far from the boardroom battles and whispers of betrayal. Rain slicked the concrete under Myra's feet, each drop cool and sharp like the thoughts tumbling in her head. Damien stood a few feet away, without his suit jacket, his white dress shirt soaked and clinging to the angles of his frame. The storm hadn't chased him off. Neither had she. "I didn't expect you to follow me," Myra said softly, staring at the skyline instead of him. "I just needed air." "I didn't come to trap you," Damien replied. "I just couldn't let you disappear again. Not without saying what I need to say." The wind howled between them like the space that had opened since the truth came out, about who he really was, about what they were both afraid of. Myra turned to him. Her eyes shimmered, not with rain, but something deeper. Anger.
Hope. Fear.
All stitched into one unbearable ache. "You lied to me," she said. "Not about the money.
About you.
About why you were on that bench. About why you looked at me like I was the first person you'd seen in years." Damien stepped forward, hands open. "I didn't plan any of this. The night we met, I was done. The company was devouring me. The board was circling. I just found out my own brother tried to sell off the clean energy division I built from nothing." His voice cracked just barely, but Myra heard it. "I left everything. I wanted to see what the world looked like without my name, without the money. I didn't expect kindness. I didn't expect you." She swallowed. "You should have told me." "I should have," he agreed. "But I didn't want your heart out of pity. I wanted to earn it. Every inch of it." She looked down. "You said I could choose. I stayed. But now I don't know how to stay. Because I'm still not sure who you are." "I'm still figuring that out too," he admitted. "But I know one thing. When I had everything, I was empty. And when I had nothing, sleeping on benches, eating whatever I could find, you looked at me like I was enough. That's never left me." Silence stretched between them. Then, with a sharp breath, Myra finally asked the question that had burned in her chest since that first night. "Why me?" Damien didn't hesitate. "Because when the world walked past, you stopped. You didn't look at me like a problem to fix or a man to save. You saw me. And every part of me has wanted to deserve that look ever since." The rain came harder now, soaking through her dress, her hair matted to her cheeks. But she didn't care. She stepped toward him. "And what if I'm scared," she whispered, "of losing myself in all of this, in you? Then let's be scared together," he said, voice breaking. "I don't want a version of you shaped for my world. I want the girl who handed me that coffee and sat beside me like I wasn't invisible." Her lip trembled. "I'm not good at trusting. I'm not good at loving," he said. "But I want to try with you." He reached out slowly, carefully, giving her time to run. But Myra didn't run. She stepped into his arms like she belonged there. The kiss was slow, shattering. It wasn't perfect. It was soaked in doubt, cracked by wounds they hadn't healed yet, but it was real. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "Don't promise me the world, Damien. Just promise you won't disappear." "I promise I'll be the man who shows up," he whispered, "no matter how hard it rains." 1 week later, the Voss Foundation Gala was buzzing, crystal chandeliers, glittering gowns, velvet and gold. But all eyes weren't on the billionaires. They were on her. Myra stepped onto the red carpet in a sleek, midnight blue dress. Nothing too flashy, but everything her. At her side stood Damien, hand firmly at her back, no longer hiding, no longer ashamed. Flashes went off. Journalists whispered, "Is that the girl? She's the one who found him on the street. They say he gave her shares in the company." Myra didn't flinch. She looked straight ahead, chin high, spine straight, and whispered to Damien, "They still don't get it." "No," he said, pulling her closer, "but they don't need to. I do." They walked through the golden doors together. And for once, she wasn't the one out of place.